Okay, good morning. Welcome to Soul of Travel interview series. This is episode number 7, and today I'm really happy to be speaking with Malia Asfour from the Jordan Tourism Board in North America. And I'm excited to talk a little bit about travel in Jordan and the Meaningful Travel Map, which is a really exciting project that resonates with my mission to connect with local communities and experience authentic culture in the destinations that I travel, and also doing it in a mindful way where the connection is authentic and beneficial to the travelers and the community. So I love that that's kind of the whole premise of that project. Malia, I would love to give you the opportunity to share with our listeners a little bit about yourself and your background in tourism, and a little bit about the work that you do at the Tourism Board.
Good morning, and thank you for having me, and congratulations on episode number 7. That's awesome. I'm so proud of you. So I've been working in the tourism sector since 94, which ages me big time. But we started the tourism board started working on it in 96 and launched it in 97 for the North American market. And it's been my first baby. So I'm very proud of the leaps and strides that we've done. My team is incredible, and we do it together, and it's pretty rewarding. And I've been very privileged and lucky to be in this sector because our jobs literally build bridges between people around the world. And I think that speaks to me, and that's very important to my soul.
Thank you. I remember the first time that I met you at the Educational Travel Conference, what seems like a very long time ago, I think close to that number. So, but what I really remember is the group of women that you had. And I remember thinking, wow, look how many women are engaged in this business. So for one, that was one door that opened.
Mm-hmm.
And two, the passion that you all had for what you were doing was very, I was very aware of that. And again, it kind of, for me, was one of those moments where I realized that people can really honestly love the work they do, and it can be really fulfilling to them personally. And that when you are in an environment like that, the opportunity that you have to create impact, I could just, I really felt a lot from that connection, and it really inspired me. So thank you that was kind of when I just was leaving graduate school and trying to figure out what my role in this industry would be. I knew it would be something, but I didn't know exactly what yet. And it was that empowering me to know that I could be a leader in the industry, knowing that I could do something passionate with conviction and be really sincere about that. And then also for me, in that community, I grew up, we were just talking, I grew up in rural Montana. I had always had these visions of connecting with other people because I lived in a pretty common, everyone looked like me, sounded like me, talked like me. I remember telling my mom when I grew up, I'm like, I want to go someplace with culture. I didn't know what I was saying, but I was craving diversity and connection with other people and other cultures, and I wanted to be immersed in them. And I didn't want like a false snapshot. I wanted real, authentic connection, but I didn't know what any of that looked like. And I remember even where is Jordan? Oh, that's Petra. And then learning about it. And immediately for me, my touch point mentally was the three of you whenever I thought of Jordan. And so that gave me an ability to think safely and dream safely about going there. And so I think where you're talking about tourism bridging gaps, I think that's what it does, right? We only need one person that we know gives us that bridge, and we can cross it. And
Absolutely.
so I think that is the power. And I think in this moment in time, this is so important. And to know that it really can be that simple. So thank you for that experience. And even though you probably never knew that it existed, but so I would love to talk a little bit about that. How do you see travel kind of adapting to this new world? So we not only now are looking at kind of coming out of this COVID crisis and what it will mean to be an international traveler or even really leave our homes. And then in terms of continuing to build on bridging that gap.
Well, there's so much change, right? That's been hit. I think we're the hardest hit industry worldwide, and there's a lot of shifts and changes that have happened from now thinking. When you think of health and when you think of safety, you're not thinking of safety the way we used to think of safety. You're thinking of safety in terms of your health and hygiene and those protocols. And so I feel like we have all our minds have shifted, and the direction of what tourism looks like for most people has shifted. So I think moving forward, we're going to be looking at things like health and hygiene. What are the closest hospitals? What is the medical facility in the destination that we'll be traveling to? But then we're also going to start looking at things, I feel, more from a sustainable angle. Where can I go where I'm going to be supportive? Where can I go where tourism can be a force for good, where my money is going to be spent helping build back, helping local communities that have been affected by the crisis? Where are the wide open spaces that I can be in so that I do have the social distancing and feel safe? And I think this is going to play a role in the psyche. I also feel that destination marketing organizations like ours are going to start looking at management more closely and scrutinize management more closely than we have before, because we don't want to go back into an over-tourism kind of situation like we've had in some countries. And we need to start looking at it from a management perspective of how do we manage the tourism structure moving forward. So I think there's a lot of different layers and different pieces that are going to happen in different countries moving forward with the travel industry.
Yeah. And I think what might be important context for people who are listening is that definitely all of these layers existed before, and kind of like many other things, this is just magnifying some of those pieces. And I think part of why I wanted to have these conversations is to bring awareness to the efforts that were already there, looking at sustainability, looking at being a responsible, more mindful traveler, and then allowing people who are starting to travel again to understand what they can look for and ask for. So I love that being an important part of the conversation. And another thing that has come up over and over is what people, you were talking about safety and hygiene and then beyond healthcare. That travelers are going to be weighing, kind of doing this cost benefit analysis with their time, with their money, with themselves, and what they want out of it, I think, and hope is going to be something more powerful. So I think that lines right up with the kind of work that you have been trying to promote in Jordan, that people don't want to just go and have this quick experience. They just don't want to see Petra and check it off their box. They want to really understand the culture. They want to spend some time in the area seeing what else is there, at least I hope. And I think that also detracts from that over tourism, because people are being more intentional with why they're going somewhere, and it's not going to just be this quick trip or this fast-paced experience. I wonder if we could just talk a little bit about the Meaningful Travel Map. I know that you launched that in partnership with Tourism Cares, which is another really great organization. And maybe I'll give you space to share a little bit about them as well, but with the intent of offering hands-on cultural experiences. And I love that they're in conjunction with places where people would be going in Jordan anyway. They're already right there. They don't have to wander far to bring that into their experience. So it makes it really accessible. But would you share a little bit about how that project came about and what you were looking to serve? And then again, like I said, maybe a little bit about Tourism Cares as well.
Absolutely. So Tourism Cares with Jordan was as a passion project of mine and of Tourism Cares. We were the first destination to launch the Meaningful Travel Map with Tourism Cares, and it's really, this is the project that feeds my soul. We worked with, I have the privilege of serving on the board of directors of Tourism Cares. I'm now the vice chair, one of the second vice chair on their executive committee. And it's been an awesome ride, because this is an organization that really helps destinations around the United States and around the world with sustainable tourism development. And with regards to the Meaningful Travel Map, we worked with Tourism Cares to identify social projects in Jordan that were on close to a destination within the country that had a lot of tourism, where we could actually help bring the tourism to some of the social enterprises that mirrored the sites or that were close to the sites, so that the other locations around these sites can benefit from tourism. And so we went around the country, interviewed many social enterprises, and started off with 12. And these 12 social enterprises are from the northern parts of Jordan to the southern parts of Jordan. And you can go and visit these local enterprises and be able to do all kinds of different things with them. Whether if you go to Beit Khirat Souf, which is not far from Jerash, you can go and cook with the local community, learn about some of the organic farming that they do, some of the food products that they have, and all the money that is spent there stays within the local community. They've been able to open a daycare for kids. They've been able to help empower the local community, build jobs, etc. And so your few dollars that you spend in these local communities magnify and are incredibly empowering. There's so many different sites within the Meaningful Travel Map that you can visit that give you that authentic experience that most travelers want. So you can go to the Finan Eco Lodge and have a immersive Bedouin experience. There's 28 rooms. It's easy to social distance there. It's easy to have a very authentic experience. But you come out of there a changed person because you've connected. You've been able to bake bread with one of the women there, or make candles, or go shepherding with one of the shepherds. You can go to Qais in the northern parts of Jordan and go foraging, take your kids to learn about beekeeping and foraging with the locals, learn how to cook as well. Tour some of the sites. It's the site where the Jordan Trail starts. You could go and start walking part of the Jordan Trail and learning more about the different topography, etc., that Jordan has to offer. So it is a really, I would say, a sustainable, local experience where your tourism dollars are a force for good, and where you're keeping money in local communities to help communities thrive.
Yeah, that is another point that I really try to communicate with my travelers. And just one of the things I love talking about is creating awareness around that. I think a lot of travelers don't understand. They think that they're in Jordan, or they're in Guatemala, they're in Peru, that their money would be supporting the local economy. And I think a lot of times they aren't aware that a international hotel chain might be, some of that money is leaving the economy, or the way sometimes tourists, gift shops and things are set up. It's not the same as actually giving your money right to a local community member, or the price is much higher. So it just creates a different dynamic. And I just think a lot of people aren't conscious of that. So I love just thinking about that, that if you go and you buy a coconut from someone local, that dollar that you spend is so exponentially more valuable than the dollar or five that you would spend at the hotel. And
Right.
it's a really easy way to help travelers feel more empowered to create an impact.
Mhm.
It's so simple. And then it also goes back to creating that connection where you're actually seeing someone in their local village, in their home. Their kids are probably going to walk up and talk to them. And it just becomes much more of a global community feel. Like you just feel much
Right.
more welcomed to where they are.
Absolutely. I mean, it changes. First of all, like for when you're talking about the coconut, for example, if you go to the big souvenir shops, most of the items are not locally made. They're brought in from China or other parts of the world and resold, and they don't have a story. And so I think when we become more aware of travelers, spending an extra 50 cents or $1 to get something that's handmade by a local community that has a story,
Mm-hmm.
and where you know what's happening with that money that you've bought this little purse from or this little uh, coaster from or what have you, or honey or anything, then you know that it changes something inside you. And when you gift that, you're able to tell the story of that gift, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and that has ripple effects in itself too. So I think it's important as we start to build back from a tourism angle that we really start looking at these things and making more the industry more aware of these opportunities that are available. Um, Tourism Cares with Jordan was the first. The second one is going to be in Colombia next February, and I had the privilege of going to Colombia and also looking at some of the uh, locations that we're going to put on the Meaningful Travel map for Colombia. And there are some incredible experiences that we're going to be able to add to that. So Tourism Cares created this Meaningful Travel platform where you can go and learn about these social enterprises in the different countries and how they can be supported. And this platform is open to the travel community to be able to learn more. So hopefully we can, through the work you're doing, through the work we're doing, et cetera, be able to amplify these kind of messages about how you shop, where you shop, how you eat, where you eat. What does it mean to be local? What does it mean to immerse? Because it changes everybody
Mm-hmm.
for the good, you know?
Yeah, I think oftentimes, and I've had this happen over and over in travel, so I would think that at some point it couldn't happen anymore, but I have sat down. Um, Maybe I was meant to be speaking with a group of people and educating them on something, and it like really quickly becomes irrelevant because I might have something to say, but I'm not educating. I'm just participating in conversation. And then I'm learning so much.
Of
And
course.
I always feel like it's so humbling, right? It's just that experience that creates the shared human connection. And it happens really quickly if you're open to it. And especially when you're traveling kind of in that slower, connective way. And
Mhm.
it's very, very, very powerful. I can't think of how many times where I've had that privilege of seeing someone else's world through their eyes and loving it, understanding it, understanding the difficulties and challenges, but also understanding the beauty in a way that I never could because I might have been bringing my own context and my own lens into the situation, and just having this mindset of um, kind of wanting to help or make things better, which I think is a natural human instinct.
Mhm.
But when you just sit and share space, that you can already see what is good, um, and there often isn't as much to do that as you think. I guess it's just a different way of being in that space, and I think that these types of experiences that you're talking about will really allow for that shift. And it is life changing. I focus on transformational travel in my company,
Mhm.
And what I noticed, or what I loved about travel, is those experiences, right? Where I was transformed. I left that place a different person. And it didn't have to be on a huge magnitude, but some part of me um, now knew something different, felt something different, was more connected. And when I started to figure out what I wanted to offer to people is those connections. And at first I thought it was going to be impossible. I thought, oh, I had this unique experience over and over again that I couldn't possibly replicate. But what I'm delighted to find is it can be replicated. It's just very much the intention and the mindset and the openness for
Sure.
those experiences to
Yeah,
happen.
for sure. For sure.
Um,
And I think, as we travel more, we open up more, and uh, and we find out that we're all more alike than different,
mhm.
which is pretty awesome.
Yeah. And it can be scary to do, but it's like a muscle and it's like a practice. And you just try it a little first,
Yeah,
right? Like you
yeah,
take your first yoga class and you might like it, and you try another one. And it's the same with travel. I think we have built these boxes around ourselves, and we do think we're protecting ourselves. But the minute that you have that moment that I know I'm sure you've had, it just changes, and it's the most beautiful thing. And that's what I really want to be able to share with the world. And I think another thing with the soul of travel is that I think there's a lot of people that that's their mission. I think that's your mission. So many
mhm.
people I've had beautiful conversations with. But I wonder what inspired you to make this path and travel your path. Like there's obviously so many ways that you can step into mass tourism, you can be focused on making money, you can travel in a very different way. And I know for me it is like I can't not do travel this way. I've tried, it feels uncomfortable. But what was your introduction to this being possible and important, and why this is how you want to show the world to other people?
So I guess it stems from being a child that's from a mixed cultural backgrounds. I have an American mother and a Jordanian father, and so I've been traveling since I was a month old, and I've traveled distances, and I've been very privileged and lucky to have seen so much of our incredible world. But as a kid, we would often go throughout Jordan and throughout places, and when you see uh, poverty, when you see people who have less than you have, and then you go and you sit with them and you talk with them and you realize that they still want to play the same way you want to play, and they're excited just to be with you. I think that changes something inside you. And so for me, I think my mandate is to bring tourism to Jordan, right? My mandate is to promote tourism as Jordan as a tourism destination, to try to disperse people all over the country so that the economic value of tourism is felt throughout the whole country. And that to do that, you have to understand what's available in the country. And we're blessed as a destination. We have over 30,000 registered archaeological sites. We have so many faith sites in the country. And so being a destination that's so rich in tourism, and most people think of Jordan as Petra. We really try to focus on other parts of Jordan and try to disperse travel throughout. And when you start to do that and you start to see the reactions that people get, it fuels your soul, right? And so I think that's what drives me and my team to try to look at things from a different lens, try to push the envelope a little bit. That's not just Petra, even though Petra is magnificent, but try to do Petra maybe in a different way, in a
Mm-hmm.
less impactful way, because it's a very sensitive site, and we have to protect it
Mm-hmm.
for our kids and our grandkids and for us. And so I think the mindset comes from experience and from learning and from being with like-minded people in the industry, and really trying to look at tourism as a force for good and how you can make a difference. And so for us, I think all of us, my team and I, because I don't do it alone, we really try to focus on that angle and look at it from that lens and what can benefit the country versus what, what type of travel per se. So we work in all the pieces of travel, but we try to infuse meaningful travel within all the different niche markets that we work in.
Right. And I think that is important because when I've traveled, like for instance, I have an itinerary in Peru, and everybody asks, why don't you start with Machu Picchu? Why don't you go to Machu Picchu? And it's beautiful and it's amazing, and you should definitely go there, and you should be mindful of the impact you have when you go there. But I don't take trips there, and people are worried they're going to miss something because they're not going there. But I love that they don't. I mean, they get to see this place they would have never gone. And I think the same, what you're saying with Jordan would be true, that there's so much out there. And when you become so focused on this one element, that you actually are missing something.
Right.
So I think that's really important. And I love looking at a country that way. And when I start to build my itineraries, I think, okay, I know that's people's bucket list. That's probably why they're thinking of coming. That's why they think they would go with me. And so trying to honor that and balance that with, okay, maybe we can look at that. And like you said, do it in a different way, but then make sure that we're really embracing the rest of the country too, and being able to spread our impact.
One of the things we suffer from is that we don't have enough tourism in Amman, in the capital, and the not that we don't have enough, but we can do more. And what's missing is that people don't understand that this is a vibrant city that has so many nooks and crannies and so much art and architecture and culture, and that and we need to focus more. I mean, our theme this year was to focus more on Amman and the northern parts of Jordan. Unfortunately, with the COVID crisis, we're all in limbo, but we're trying to inspire at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and people can still have conversation and learn and become aware and impassioned to travel there when they can. So that's what I've been focusing on, is like the things that happen when we travel, some of those experiences and the way it feels in your body. We can do other things that create that now to keep us connected and then ready to return. So I love thinking about connecting with artisans, and when I travel, that's a really important part for me. So again, this kind of ties back to the meaningful travel map, but I feel like it's the quickest way to, one, I have a women's travel program, so for women to connect with women, and then to really experience culture, because so often, they're working to actively conserve those traditions of weaving or whatever their handcraft is, and pass that down to generations where it's getting lost, just like it is in the United States. I mean, we often think those traditions are held strong and fast in other countries, and I don't know why we think that, because that's what we go and see, I guess, as tourists. But I love having those conversations with artisans, saying, how they are really working to share this with their children and their grandchildren to make sure that it lives on. So connecting with artisans provides that strong touch point with culture and authenticity, with women and empowering women. And I'm trying to find my note on it, but I know the Weavers Project,
Bani Hamida.
Yes, Bani Hamida. It was saying that she, one of the women who began as a volunteer, became a supervisor and the project manager, and now manages, is one of 6 women elected to the in the municipal elections. Would you share that story? Because I think I've seen that happen in other countries, and like, that's the magic. Like, I love that. That's my favorite.
There's several stories similar to that in Jordan, but this woman is incredible. So she had learned how to weave from her grandmother, and her grandmother from her mother and her grandmother. So it's been passed down through generations. And it was sort of a dying art until the Jordan River Foundation came in and identified some microfinancing for this community, and and started the project. And so this woman is a force of nature, and she decided that she was going to be part of the project and was hired to be one of the weavers. And what she did is she decided to learn how to drive, and her husband helped her. And she got a pickup truck, and she would go around the village, pick up all these women, pack them up in the pickup truck, go to the shop, and teach them how to weave. And eventually they started this whole Beni Hamida project, which is an incredible weaving project. They do beautiful rugs. Everyone has a story, but they have other weaving, they do baskets and other things as well. And she educated herself, educated her kids, and her kids were the first kids in the village to be able to go to university. She ran for the municipal elections and won, and has a voice in the community. And she is a force of nature that empowers women left, right, and center. And she's awesome. And literally, if you saw where she came from and where she is, it's a beautiful story.
Mm.
There's another woman in the north, in Qais, also part of the Baraka destinations with the Meaningful Travel Map. And this woman started off, her husband was being laid off. He didn't have a job. He was in a lot of debt. The authorities were coming after him because he wasn't able to pay his taxes, etc. So she convinced him to get a job and start working at one of the bed and breakfasts. And so she started being a cleaning lady. And eventually she became the manager, and eventually she hired her husband. So, you know, these women empowering women to do this kind of work, I think is extremely important, but also making a huge difference in communities and in the psyche of kids as they start to grow up and realizing the equality that we need to have between our genders. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And I think it's a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing. I also love that it's similar to what I was saying when I first met you, and I didn't know that I could do what I wanted to do, right? These women start seeing each other in their villages becoming leaders and having a voice, and then they know that they can strive for that because they didn't even know they could strive for it before. Maybe it was in their heart, or maybe it was just so far reaching they couldn't even dream it, but it quickly ripples out. They start seeing each other, and it is a force to be reckoned with. And I've had the privilege of witnessing that with a project that I've been connected with in Guatemala, and the demeanor and the mannerism and the confidence, and it's so amazing to see how quickly it becomes something new. And then to be able to be a part of that and share it, and even just for a moment, it's very powerful for ourselves as well, because we can see ourselves in each other, and we can also connect to that moment of when we're feeling like challenges are overwhelming, or maybe we can't navigate something. We can pull from that shared experience and think, look what they overcome to become who they were dreaming of being.
Yeah.
And it makes it a lot easier. And that's, again, that for me, that global sisterhood and that shared humanity piece is really the most important piece of travel. And
I agree.
yeah, I think that's so
And
important.
we as women have a role to play in lifting other women up, and I think we need to do more of that, especially in the travel industry. We have a few women leaders, and we need to work in helping each other and lift each other up.
And I do think the women we see are often so powerful because they're the strongest ones rising up first. So they're fighting the hardest, which they're beautiful and amazing to connect with, but it does, there's still room for the people that maybe are not as strong and as powerful. Like there's room for everyone's voice. And I think that's starting to happen too. The people that maybe never would have said anything are starting to feel like they can add to the conversation as well.
Absolutely.
I also wanted to talk just a little bit about the Jordan Trail, partly because I would love to do the whole entire thing at some point in my life. But when you look at the Jordan Trail, which for people that don't know is a hike that can take it's about 40 days, right, to do the entire trail.
Yeah.
When people then are hiking and they're on foot, they are obviously very much connecting with the land and nature and people, and moving more slowly. I think we've talked on this a little bit, but how do you think that benefits locals and how that creates space for connection? What do people interact along that Jordan Trail?
So the trail is from the most northern parts of Jordan in Qais and winds all the way down the country to Aqaba. And it goes through 52 local villages. So often villages off the beaten track that probably have never seen tourists before are benefiting from homestays, benefiting from meals being given to those hiking the trail, benefit from interaction with someone different. Um, and so if you really want to be immersed in the Jordan Trail, I suggest that you go and watch Andrew Walks Jordan. Andrew Evans hiked, he's an Nat Geo influencer, and he hiked the whole Jordan Trail from north to south and blogged every day about it. And it's a great, great story. But it's a immersive experience in several ways. First with the land and the different topographies. In the north, it's forest. In the south, it's desert. And in between, there's all these hikes and climbs and ups and downs and valleys and mountains that you have to cross. And it's not a leisurely, easy hike, but it isn't, but anyone can do it. And that's what's neat about it. And then along the way, you're going to meet all kinds of shepherds and herders, etc. And there's instant interaction with them. And I believe anywhere you go along the Jordan Trail, if you meet a shepherd or anything, they're going to sit down with you, make you a cup of tea, and you're going to have some conversation, which is awesome. But the Jordan Trail is a story of itself where it's connected these villages to each other that were not connected before. And mirroring the Jordan Trail, which is the walking trail, is the Jordan Bike Trail. So you could also bike across Jordan. And so it's been able to connect these villages together. It's been able to connect these people to talk to each other. And it's been able to connect these travelers who are walking the trail with these villagers. So it's been a win-win situation in every way that it's come together.
I love that so much. And I love the story of the topography, because that is one thing when I started researching, I really just had in my mind what I saw with Petra and the desert and the sea, but I didn't know about forests and these mountains. And I mean, that's the magic of travel, right? I already learned something. I haven't even been there. I just opened a book and looked at some websites. And
I mean, you're at high altitude and you're hiking down to the Dead Sea, which is you're below sea level, and then you're going back up. And so it's like all these different terrains that you're going to be hiking in.
Yeah. And it's in a relatively short distance. So you can have all of those experiences kind of quickly to see all these different things. So I think that's really, really amazing as well.
Very much so. And you can do little parts of the Jordan Trail. Like my kids, 2 Christmases ago, we went and we did 9 kilometers of the Jordan Trail, and we were in the north, so we did through literally canopied forest. It was so beautiful. And then the guide took us to this clearing where there was a local community who had made us lunch, and we all sat on the ground and broke bread together and had lunch together. And it was just like this incredible experience, because there were these little kids with us interacting, sitting next to us, talking. And my kids and my nieces and nephews were all interacting. It was amazing. And so everybody loved it and everybody wanted to do more. So I'll go walk with you.
Thank you. Yes, let's do that, please. And I thank you for mentioning that, because I had that in the back of my mind to share with people too, that if, a 40-day hike across Jordan might be a little intimidating for some people, and they might not have that allotted amount of time, but they can still connect with that experience by picking small sections of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I would love to give you, if there's anything else that you want to just share, if there's anything that we missed that you would love for our listeners to know or understand.
Well, I think what's important now is, as we start to think about this country opening up and tourism coming back, there are countries like Jordan whose tourism is their oil. I mean, it's the only thing that it's what keeps our economy afloat. It ranges between 12 to 14% of our GDP. So it's an important piece to our economy. And so as tourism starts to open and people start to thinking about where to travel, maybe they could travel where countries have had strong leadership, where they've been open and transparent, like Jordan has about the COVID virus, and where they flattened the curve, which we have done successfully, and it's a point of pride.
Mhm.
And so hopefully these destinations are the ones that people will think about visiting first. We can definitely benefit from tourism dollars being spent in Jordan, but also the experience that you will have is incredible. And so I just can't wait to go back and go see my family, because right now I can't, but
Mhm.
hopefully soon, because it's just such an incredible place.
Yeah, I can't wait. I started in January planning my sojourn, and I went
Yeah.
to a travel show, and I was just kind of, teasing it, telling people like these are the things so far that I know I'm doing. And everyone put their name with the check mark that Jordan was the thing that they wanted to hear about. So that's really
Right.
exciting and
Awesome.
fun to be able to share with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't wait to pick that back up and be able to create and share that experience for people that are looking to travel and to learn more about what you offer, unique travel experiences. How can they connect with you and your organization and find more about traveling?
So our website, My Jordan Journey, has a live COVID page too. So it's updated daily on anything that should do with the virus, but it also has a meaningful travel map. And we also just launched holyjordan.com, which is a faith-based website that's also part of My Jordan Journey. So we have a lot of information on there. And email me, contact anyone in my office directly. Happy to respond and help people connect with, whether they need to connect with people like you to put trips together, or just get information. We're a resource for the North American market, so use us.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
think that's another great point to share, because before I was in the travel industry, I didn't know tourism boards existed. So I don't think that it's a really common awareness, which is kind of sad, because now I know what a wealth of information and what a great resource it is. It should be the first place you go when you're looking at traveling,
Yeah.
because they have a really strong understanding of what is happening and unique for you addressing North American travelers to Jordan.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think that's a really valuable resource as well. Thank you so much for
My
joining me.
pleasure.
This has been
Anytime.
such a great conversation, and I know people listening have all been inspired and fallen a little bit in love with Jordan. So thank
I
you.
hope so. Thank you.
Thank you.